5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Better make it 10.
Okay, 10 minutes.
Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and I tend to be a little bit long-winded, so we better make it 10. Today, I'm going to talk about the Ghostbusters documentary, or I should say the documentary about Ghostbusters fans called Ghost Heads, which is on Netflix right now as of this recording, and came out this year. It's about people who go to conventions and, in general, just go around wearing Ghostbusters garb and are part of official Ghostbusters fan groups all across the country and all across the world. And like a lot of fan documentaries, it shows the kinds of lifestyles these folks lead and talks about how important their fandom is to their regular everyday lives. And this is a really popular thing for documentaries right now. I feel like eventually we're going to get one of these for every kind of fandom there is. You know, there's one of these for Firefly, there's one of these that came out for Back to the Future. I think just last year there are 2 of these for Star Trek. Just in the Trekkies series alone, there are probably other documentaries about Star Trek fans that I don't even know about, and of course there's one for Star Wars. We've got these for everything, and this one is really similar to others, to other documentaries about fans of things that I've seen. So if you have seen any of those documentaries, you'll either feel right at home here, or you'll feel like this is kind of redundant and it's just plug in anything for Ghostbusters. And these tend to be the kinds of people that fall into these kinds of groups and these kinds of big, fan communities where it's not enough just to go to a convention or just to enjoy the thing at home. They've got to put on a costume and go outside and have big meetings with people and have events and things. And that's not me belittling folks that do this at all, of course, because I'm a massive Star Trek fan and I have done similar things to this sort of thing. And I say the same kinds of people. Certainly a lot of different fandoms to bring in different kinds of people, but there do seem to be kind of some stereotypes, and this movie does include a couple of people that seem to sort of, at least the way they're portrayed in the documentary, squarely fall into the stereotypical cosplay mega fan, doesn't have a life if you're William Shatner 20 years ago kinds of people. And one of the issues I had with this is, overall I really enjoyed it, and I learned some things, and I was glad that I watched it. One of the biggest issues I had with it is with the case of the guy that it follows majoritively. I mean, there's a number of people of Ghost Heads, which, by the way, I didn't even know that was the preferred term for Ghostbusters fans. Like, Star Trek fans have Trekkies. I didn't know we even had this with Ghostbusters. Of course, Vince, who used to be with me here on the channel, is a giant Ghostbusters fan. I've never heard him call himself a ghost head. I didn't even know this was a thing. And I'm friends with the biggest Ghostbusters fan that I know. But anyway, the guy that it follows around the most, there were a couple of places in particular where I couldn't decide if the movie was simply following him with a camera and letting him do whatever it is he does in the moment, or if it was kind of making fun of him a little bit. And the movie is sometimes, I think, a little bit unclear as to whether I'm supposed to be finding some of these people to be endearing, or if it's kind of I don't want to say social experiment, but it's sort of just, animals in the wild. Look at that specimen. Isn't that a curious thing? And the people making the movie seem to be on the whole, Ghostbusters fans themselves, and really really passionate about the series and the fandom themselves. So I don't think it meant to come off that way, but there are some places where, and I could just say, and like, I don't want to be mean to this guy. I'm not going to say his name or anything, mostly because I don't remember it right now, but he But, like, I don't want to be mean to this guy. There's a lot of things about him that I did find endearing, and I found his story kind of touching in some places, especially how he grew up with Ghostbusters, with his grandfather, and that's the big thing they did together. And if you want to watch the movie, I won't give anything away about his story and stuff. But I did find myself ultimately liking him, but he was a little bit socially awkward in some places, especially in how he interacted with people. When he was really nervous, he seemed to kind of try to compensate for that by acting a little bit egotistical. I don't know if that was him just trying to kind of do a Peter Venkman or what exactly that was, but I thought that it was, I mean, like, I don't want to give the movie crap for including that stuff because it shows us, you know, different sides of him, but I also thought that I just couldn't decide what exactly it was trying to communicate with some of that. So that was my biggest thing, was that there are places where it feels a little bit Trekkies, where it's sort of like, in places it almost feels like it's laughing at people who are very extreme in their, and that's a word I didn't mean to use with Ghostbusters, but where they're really extreme in their fandom, and I don't think that it's exactly meaning to do that. But anyway, getting off of that, positives, I thought this was a much more focused documentary. It was a lot more centered and knew what it was trying to accomplish, besides that part, than, say, the Back to the Future documentary, which was about fans, but there was too much making of stuff in the middle of that, back and forth, and this seemed to be a lot more, like I said, focused and structured. It is specifically very much just about the fandom. There are places where I feel like, even though it interviews people that were involved in the movie, Ivan Reitman is in this, Dan Aykroyd is in this, Ernie Hudson is in this, of course Bill Murray is nowhere to be found, but that's not surprising, and what's nice is all three of those guys aren't just interviewed, but they are involved in sections of the film dealing with the fandom and conventions and interacting with fans, so it felt much more structured in that way. That's true too with Back to the Future, with Back in Time, of a couple of people, like Christopher Lloyd is at a convention and interacting with people, and he's part of an event, and so some of that was there, but much more so, I felt like this was much more tightly interconnected and woven together, and there's, I always talk about through lines with documentaries. What exactly is this about? Does it feel like it kind of has a narrative? Sort of. I mean, it's about some different fans, and it doesn't go back and forth between each of them like, say, Indie Video Game, the movie. I think that's what that's called, Indie Game. That one was like, here's three different game makers and their stories kind of interwoven together, and this was mostly one guy with some other people kind of filtered in that just didn't have as big of stories to tell, because he got to do some really neat things. There's a section where he's at the firehouse for his birthday. That was really fun. I really liked his ectomobile. It was a really unusual one. It was orange. I think it was really cool. And like I said, there's a lot of things about him that I really liked. And he was one of the guys, and I knew about this, he was one of the guys that got to go to the special screening of the trailer for the new movie, and with a bunch of other ghost heads. I didn't realize it was just people that are part of these groups that got to go to that, and I also didn't realize, as Dan Aykroyd says, that there is one of these groups, at least a chapter in every state. I didn't realize just how big this was. I mean, I've been to a lot of conventions that have had Ghostbusters at them, and have had people with ectomobiles, and I didn't realize that they were all, and probably most of these people that I've seen too, were all part of official chapters of Ghostbusters franchises, and that's really neat. I didn't know that was a thing. If I was a lot more into Ghostbusters and I had the time, I'd like to join one of those. I mean, I think probably the best thing I can say about the movie is that it didn't turn me off to most of these people. It made me think, and of course, being the big fan of things that I am, and I mean, I'm too quirky and out there and stuff to be put off by that kind of thing anyway. But that looked like fun and looked like something I might enjoy doing. I also liked getting to see different permeations of it, people at different stages of it. So we got to meet in the movie the original Ghostbusters Ghostbusters fan who, a big mega fan who's been in Ghostbusters fandom for 30 years, and that's been mostly what he's done since he started. He made a proton pack in a suit before the movie opened, and has managed to kind of make a career out of it. And he was really interesting. And then you got to see kind of everything in between. I especially really liked that we got to see a guy who said, as much as I love doing this, I have a life, I have a wife, I'm about to have a kid, maybe you already had a kid. He says, I don't know that I'll be able to do this forever, but it's something that I always love. I'll always keep my suit and occasionally bring it out, but I don't know if I'll be able to use this to do this forever. And so you get to see all the things in between. Like I said, it's a little padded. There are places where I feel like the movie gets a little bit too personal with people. Not that I'm not interested in their very personal stories and how the Ghostbusters fandom affects them. There's one girl who is who claims that Ghostbusters helped her get over alcoholism. I really appreciated her story, and her and her fiance seemed really cool and had a really good relationship. And I love the big, I don't want to say twist, because obviously this isn't plotted, but the big thing that we get with them later was really cool and kind of touching. So I enjoyed a lot of that stuff, but there were some places where I say too personal in that I was wondering why I was being told a story while I was being told it, and then finally it became clear, but I was afraid that the documentary might lose some people in the middle of that. Like, maybe there needed to be a little bit more context for it before, you know, we got all of this kind of sometimes kind of long-winded stories. And having made a documentary myself, it's I realize how difficult it is sometimes to cut around interview material and stuff. It's a good documentary overall. As I said, if you've seen other documentaries about fans, this will feel really familiar, and that might hurt it for some people. I'm over time, but I should also mention that this was, of course, being filmed as the new movie was being filmed, and so there's some fun things with that, where just all of a sudden Ghostbusters is really, really relevant again. And this is before the trailer came out, so it was before all the backlash and the controversy, and so none of that really is there. There's no talk whatsoever of, oh no, 4 girls, is that going to upset people? It's just Ghostbusters fans really excited that there's going to be another movie, and they may have cut out interview stuff where people were worried about it. There's really not a lot of talk about that aspect of it. But it's but I like getting to see the fandom right there before we really knew very much about that movie, and it was I liked that it was then, you know, as that was going on, but it wasn't really about the new movie and worries and stuff, because that would have dated it too much. And of course, it is a moment in time, but I think it'll still be an interesting thing to watch, you know, a couple years down the road, maybe. Might be neat. I mean, I was going to say it might be neat to see a follow-up. I don't know how much more stuff there'd be really to say about this, but it might be neat to... I guess my deal is I'd like to go back to some of these people and see what they thought of the new movie, because I know a lot of really diehard Ghostbusters fans didn't care for it, or at the very least were really trepidatious about it with that trailer. And I would love to know what some of the folks that I saw in this movie think of that movie. But anyway, obviously, if you're a big Ghostbusters fan, it's kind of worth a watch. And I should also mention, I'm well over my 10 now. I should also mention that it's probably that it's maybe worth a watch just to see some of the memorabilia in it, because there's some stuff that people have that I didn't even know about. You can see all the homemade stuff is really cool. So it was in a like home movie, people made their own stuff kind of way. It was a really fun documentary to watch. But anyway, thanks as always for watching. Sure appreciate it. If you've seen this movie, I'd love to see your comments and what you thought of it. And in the meantime, thanks a lot for watching. I'm Captain Logan, and I'll see you again next time.